Dr. Han Jae-yun sat in her quiet office at the Korean Space Research Institute. A clock on her wall showed 3:00 a.m., but she didn't feel tired. Her computer screen showed strange patterns that had kept her awake for the past 3 nights. "This can't be right," she said to herself, looking at the numbers again. The signal from space was too perfect, too organized. Natural space signals were usually messy and random, but this one was different. She picked up her phone and called her friend and colleague, Dr. Kim Ta-won. Even though it was very late, she knew he would want to see this. "Ta-won, you need to come to my office right now," she said. "I found something in the Andromeda Galaxy data." 20 minutes later, Dr. Kim arrived at her office. His hair was messy, and he was still wearing his sleeping clothes under his lab coat. But his eyes were wide awake when he saw Jae-yun's computer screen. "Look at this pattern." Jae-yun pointed to the screen. "It repeats every 147 seconds. And here." She clicked on another window. "These numbers follow the same pattern as prime numbers, but with a difference we've never seen before." Tai-won sat down and started typing quickly on the computer. "Let me run this through our new pattern recognition software," he said. After a few minutes, the computer showed a new image. Both scientists stared at it in silence. On the screen was a perfect geometric shape, like a snowflake made of mathematical equations. It was beautiful and impossible. Space noise could never make something so perfect. "Jae-yun," Tai-won said slowly, "I think we just found proof that we're not alone in the universe." Jae-yun felt her hands shake as she saved all the data. "We need to tell Director Park right away," she said. "This is too important to wait until morning." They called the director, and within an hour, the quiet research building became very busy. More scientists arrived, all looking excited and nervous. They brought more computers and started running more tests on Jae-yun's discovery. Director Park called an emergency meeting at 6:00 a.m. The main meeting room was full of tired but excited scientists. Jae-yun stood in front of them, showing her data on the big screen. "The signal comes from a star system in Andromeda," she explained. "It's too precise to be natural. Someone made this signal. Someone intelligent." The room was completely quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. Humans had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. "There's more," Ta-won added, standing up. "The signal. It's getting stronger. Whatever is sending it, it's not just broadcasting randomly. It's aimed directly at Earth." Director Park looked serious. "Are you absolutely sure about this data?" he asked. Jae-yun nodded. "We ran every possible test. This is real." The director picked up his phone. "I need to call the president," he said. "The world needs to know about this." As the sun rose over Seoul that morning, Jae-yun looked out her office window. The city was waking up like any other day. People were going to work, students were walking to school, and buses were running on their regular routes. But everything was about to change. She looked back at her computer screen, where the beautiful mathematical pattern was still spinning slowly. Somewhere, across the vast distance of space, someone was trying to talk to Earth, and they had chosen her signal receiver to hear their message. "I wonder what they want to tell us," she whispered to herself. The story of humanity was about to enter a new chapter, and it had started in a quiet office in South Korea, with a scientist who stayed up late to look at the stars. 3 months after Dr. Han's discovery, the world had changed completely. Every space agency on Earth was now watching the signal. It grew stronger each day, and scientists agreed that something was traveling toward Earth. Lee Do-hyun stood at the window of his office in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, looking at the crowd of reporters outside. As South Korea's top diplomatic expert, he had been chosen to lead the contact team. It was both an honor and a huge responsibility. His phone rang. It was Dr. Han Jae-yun. "Mr. Lee," she said, her voice shaking with excitement. "They're here. Our telescopes just spotted them entering our solar system." Do-hyun felt his heart beat faster. "How long until they reach Earth?" "About 6 hours," she answered. They're moving incredibly fast, but somehow they're slowing down without using any engines we can see. It's like they're riding space itself. The world watched and waited. Military forces were on high alert, but they had all agreed not to show any aggressive moves. This was humanity's first contact with aliens, and nobody wanted to start it with a fight. 5 hours later, Do-hyun stood with Dr. Han and other officials at the chosen meeting point, a large open field outside Seoul. The sky was clear and full of stars. Suddenly, the stars disappeared behind something massive. People gasped as a shape appeared in the sky. It looked like a cloud at first, but as it came lower, they could see what it really was. A dragon. A real dragon, floating in the air. It was beautiful. Its scales shimmered with colors that didn't exist on Earth. Its body was long and graceful, like the dragons in old Korean paintings, but it was clearly not from Earth. Parts of its body seemed to fade in and out of reality, and strange lights danced along its length. The dragon landed softly on the field. It was huge, longer than 3 buses put together. Its eyes glowed with a gentle blue light, and when it looked at the humans, they felt no fear. Then something amazing happened. The air in front of the dragon started to shine, and a voice spoke in perfect Korean. "People of Earth," the voice said, "we are the Draconis. We have watched your world for a long time, waiting for you to find our signal. Now you are ready to join the greater community of space." Do-hyun stepped forward. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. "Welcome to Earth," he said. "We are honored to meet you." The dragon's eyes seemed to smile. "The honor is ours," it said. "Your world has something special, something rare in the universe. You have imagination. You have dreams. Long ago, when we first visited Earth, your ancestors saw us and created stories about dragons. Those stories stayed alive in your cultures, especially here in Asia. That is why we chose to return here first." Dr. Han couldn't help asking a question. "Why did you wait so long to contact us?" "A civilization must find its own path," the dragon answered. "But now you need us, and we need you. The darkness is coming to your part of space. We are here to help you prepare." Do-hyun felt a chill despite the warm night. What kind of darkness? The dragon's glow dimmed slightly. "That is a longer discussion for tomorrow. Tonight is for celebration. Humanity has joined the stars." As if on cue, more lights appeared in the sky. More dragons, each different from the others, floating down to Earth. Their scales painted the night sky with colors no human had ever seen before. That night, no one in Seoul slept. They all stayed outside, watching the dragons dance in the sky, knowing that the world would never be the same again. Park Sun-mi walked through the new Cultural Exchange Center in Seoul. The building was a beautiful mix of traditional Korean architecture and the flowing, light-filled style of the Draconis. Sunlight came through windows that changed color throughout the day, making patterns on the wooden floors. As the lead cultural anthropologist for the exchange program, Sun-mi spent her days learning about the Draconis civilization. Today she was meeting with Aura, one of the younger Draconis who loved talking about their history. "Look at this," Sun-mi said, showing Aura an old scroll painting of dragons in the clouds. "This was painted over 500 years ago. The dragons look very much like you." Aura's scales shifted to a pleased golden color. The young Draconis floated closer to examine the painting. "Yes, they saw us well," Aura said, "though they made our whiskers longer than they really are." Sun-mi carefully unrolled another scroll. "We found similar dragon paintings from all over Asia, Korea, China, Japan, Vietnam. But European dragons look very different. They have wings and breathe fire. Why is that?" Aura's colors rippled with what Sun-mi had learned was amusement. Different families of our kind visited different parts of Earth. The ones who went to Europe were younger, more playful. They liked to show off with fire displays and aerial acrobatics. Sun-mi typed notes into her tablet. "This explains so much about Earth's dragon myths. But why did you stop visiting?" she asked. We saw that humans needed time to grow on their own, Aura explained. Each time we visited, some humans wanted us to solve all their problems. They started to worship us. That was not good for your development. The conversation was interrupted by excited voices from the main hall. Sun Mei and Aura went to look. A group of school children had come to visit. They were watching in amazement as an older draconis named Lux created beautiful light patterns in the air. This is why we chose to return now, Aura said softly. Look at these children. They are not afraid. They are curious. They want to learn, not worship. Sun Mai watched as one brave little girl asked Lux how the lights worked. Instead of just showing her, Lux was teaching her about the physics of light and energy. The girl's eyes were bright with understanding. We are learning from you too, Aura continued. Humans have such strong emotions, such vivid dreams. You create art and music that surprises us. You imagine things that have never existed, then work to make them real. Sun Mai thought about that. The Draconis were far more advanced than humans in science and technology, but they were fascinated by human creativity and art. Already, some musicians were creating new instruments that used both human music and Draconis light harmonies. Later that day, Sun Mai met with Li Do-hyun to share her findings. The Draconis didn't just visit Earth in the past, she explained. They helped shape our cultures. Our ancestors saw them and created stories that taught important lessons about wisdom and respect for nature. Do-hyun nodded thoughtfully. And now they're back, because we need those lessons again, he said. They mentioned a darkness coming. I wonder if that's why they're so interested in human creativity. Perhaps, Sun Mai agreed. They keep saying that humans think differently than other species. Maybe our way of thinking, our imagination and creativity, is something they need. Outside the window, more Draconis flew through the evening sky, their scales reflecting the sunset in impossible colors. On the street below, humans walked and talked and lived their lives, already getting used to their amazing new neighbors. Two civilizations were learning from each other, preparing for something neither fully understood yet. But today, in the Cultural Exchange Center, children laughed as they learned about light and energy from creatures their ancestors had painted in clouds hundreds of years ago. The meeting room at the Korean Space Defense Command was silent as Choi Yun-ho watched the hologram floating above the table. The senior Draconis leader, Nova, was showing them something that made everyone's blood run cold. These are the Void Hunters, Nova explained. The hologram showed dark shapes moving between stars. They looked like black clouds with sharp edges, absorbing all light around them. They destroy everything in their path. They are coming to this part of space. Yun-ho studied the images carefully. As South Korea's top military strategist, he needed to understand this enemy. How do they attack, he asked. Nova's scales darkened to a deep blue, a sign of serious concern. They consume energy. All energy. From stars, from planets, from living things. They leave only cold, empty space behind. The hologram changed to show a solar system. Everyone watched in horror as the dark shapes covered a planet. When they moved away, the planet was gray and lifeless. How long do we have? Yun-ho asked. 2 Earth years, Nova replied. Perhaps less. They move faster than any natural thing should. That is why we came to help. Your world has something special. Something that might save not just Earth, but many worlds. Lee Do-hyun, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. What do we have that's so special? Your minds, Nova said. Humans think in ways we have never seen before. You make unexpected connections. You imagine solutions that should not be possible. The Void Hunters cannot understand or predict this kind of thinking. Dr. Han Jae-hyun, who had been invited to the meeting, suddenly sat up straighter. That's why you're sharing your technology with us, she said. You want us to find new ways to use it. Nova's scales rippled with approval. Yes, our science is advanced, but we think in patterns. The Void Hunters understand patterns. They can counter anything we do. But humans are creative, unpredictable. Yunho walked to the window. Outside, human and Draconis ships were practicing flying together. The human pilots were already creating new flight patterns that the Draconis had never thought of. "We need to prepare," he said. "Not just Korea, but all of Earth. How many other worlds have the Void Hunters destroyed?" 17 in the past century, Nova answered. "All of them more advanced than Earth in technology. But none of them had your spark of creativity." The room was quiet again as everyone thought about this. Billions of lives lost to these cosmic hunters. Earth could be next. "We will help you prepare," Nova continued. "We will share our knowledge, our technology. But you must find new ways to use them, ways that even we cannot imagine." Yunho turned back to the group. "Then we need to start now. Dr. Han, can you work with the Draconis scientists to understand their defense systems?" Jia-yun nodded firmly. "Yes. And I have some ideas already about combining their quantum technology with our theoretical models." "Good," Yunho said. "Do-hyun, we need you to coordinate with other countries. This must be a global effort." Do-hyun was already making calls on his phone. The world needed to know what was coming. As the meeting ended, Yunho looked at the hologram one last time. The Void Hunters were terrifying, but they had never faced humans before. And humans had something no other species had, the ability to look at the impossible and say, "Let's try anyway." The next 2 years would test humanity like never before, but they would face this challenge together, humans and Draconis. Creativity and wisdom combined against the darkness between the stars. Commander Kang Minji stood on the deck of the new Earth Defense Station, watching the sunrise over the Korean peninsula. The space station, built with Draconis technology, hung in low Earth orbit like a shining silver flower. From up here, she could see the massive changes happening on the surface below. The past 6 months had transformed the Earth. The Korean peninsula had become the center of the world's defense preparations. Large areas outside Seoul now housed the training facilities where humans and Draconis worked together to prepare for the coming battle. Minji checked her tablet. The morning report showed good progress. The new defense ships were almost ready. These vessels combined Earth's best military technology with Draconis energy systems. Human pilots flew them in ways that surprised even their alien allies. Her communication device chimed. "Commander," a voice said, "the morning training session is ready to begin." Minji took one last look at the sunrise before heading to the control room. Through the large windows, she could see the training area. 50 small fighter ships, piloted by humans, flew in formation with 10 Draconis. They were practicing new battle moves that had never been tried before. "The pilots are learning fast," said Aura, the young Draconis who had become her friend and advisor. "They create new flight patterns every day. The Void Hunters will not expect this." Minji nodded. "Humans are good at thinking differently when we need to," she said. "How are the new weapons coming along?" They walked to another part of the station where Dr. Han Jae-yun was working. The scientist had dark circles under her eyes, but she smiled when she saw them. "Commander, you need to see this," she said excitedly. Jae-yun led them to a testing chamber. Inside, a small device sat on a table. "This combines Draconis energy control with human quantum theory," she explained. "Watch." She pressed a button. The device created a field of energy that looked like soft blue light. Then she threw a metal ball at it. The ball didn't bounce off or go through. Instead, it simply disappeared. "Where did it go?" Minji asked. "Nowhere," Jae-yun said. "The field doesn't block things. It removes their energy completely. The Void Hunters feed on energy, but they can't feed on nothing." Aura's scales turned bright gold with excitement. "This is exactly what we hoped for, a solution we would never have thought of." Minji smiled. All around the world, teams of humans and Draconis were making similar breakthroughs. In Europe, They had developed new shield systems. In Africa, they had created energy weapons that used chaos theory in ways that confused the Void Hunters' senses. In South America, they had built early warning systems that could detect the smallest changes in space. But there was still so much to do. Minji's tablet showed the countdown. 1 year and 4 months until the Void Hunters arrived. Every day mattered. "Commander," a voice called. "The United Nations Defense Council is ready for your daily report." Minji straightened her uniform. As the commander of Earth's first space defense force, she had to keep everyone working together. It wasn't always easy. Countries still argued about who should control what technology, who should lead which projects. But the threat of the Void Hunters kept them focused on what mattered. "Coming," she said. She looked out at the training ships again. The pilots were trying a new formation that looked like a dancing dragon. It was beautiful and deadly at the same time. Earth was changing, growing stronger. When the Void Hunters came, they would find a world ready to fight back in ways they had never seen before. The warning came 6 months earlier than expected. Pilot Ba Jinwoo was running a routine patrol near Jupiter when his ship's sensors detected something strange. The space between the stars was getting darker. "Command station, this is Patrol 7, he called. "I'm seeing unusual readings in Sector 4. Commander Kang Minji's voice came through clearly. "What kind of readings, Pilot Ba?" "It's like the stars are disappearing," he reported. "Just like in the training simulations. They're here." The Earth Defense Network activated immediately. Sirens sounded in every major city. The Draconis ships moved into their positions. Years of preparation were about to be tested. Jinwoo watched as the darkness spread. Soon he could see them clearly, the Void Hunters. They looked like tears in space itself, moving with terrible purpose toward the inner solar system. "All pilots, take your positions," Commander Kang ordered. "Remember your training. These enemies expect patterns. Give them chaos instead." Jinwoo led his squadron toward the approaching enemy. Human ships flew alongside their Draconis allies, but not in the neat formations they had practiced. Instead, each pilot flew in their own way, making it impossible to predict their movements. The Void Hunters struck first. They sent out waves of dark energy that could drain a normal ship in seconds. But the human ships were not normal. Dr. Han's energy dispersal shields worked perfectly, making the attacks pass harmlessly by. "They're confused." Nova's voice came through the command channel. "They've never seen shields like these before. Now is the time to strike back." Jinwoo smiled. During training, he had come up with a crazy idea. The Void Hunters fed on energy. So what if they were given too much energy at once? He had tested this theory in simulations, but this was different. This was real. "Squadron 7, follow my lead," he called. His pilots knew the plan. They flew their ships in a spiral pattern, building up energy in their engines. The Void Hunters, sensing the power, moved closer. "Now," Jinwoo shouted. All at once, the squadron released their energy in a massive burst, but not in a straight line. Each ship fired in a different direction, creating a web of power that the Void Hunters couldn't process fast enough. The result was spectacular. 3 of the dark shapes twisted in on themselves, overwhelmed by the chaotic energy pattern. They didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist. It worked. Jinwoo called excitedly. "Command, the confusion tactic works. They can't handle random energy patterns." All across the solar system, other squadrons began using similar tricks. Some pilots flew patterns based on old video games. Others used dance movements they remembered from school. Each unique pattern confused and damaged the Void Hunters more. The Draconis were amazed. "In all our battles, we never thought to fight them this way." Nova said, "We always tried to be logical, predictable. But human unpredictability is the perfect weapon against them." The battle wasn't over. More Void Hunters were coming. But humanity had found their weakness. The very chaos and creativity that made humans different from other species was exactly what they needed to win. Commander Kane's voice came through again, strong and clear. "Well done, everyone. But this is just the beginning. They'll adapt to these tactics soon. We need to be ready with new ones." Jinwoo looked out at the stars, still beautiful despite the battle raging around them. Humanity had won its first fight against the darkness. They had proved they could stand against the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. Dr. Han Jia-yun had not slept in 2 days. She stood in her laboratory on the Earth Defense Station, staring at complex equations that covered the digital walls. Next to her, Dr. Kim Ta-won was checking data from their latest experiment. The first battle had shown them something important about the Void Hunters. When they were confused by random energy patterns, they became visible for a brief moment. In that moment, their true form could be seen. "Look at this reading again," Jia-yun said, pointing to a graph. When Pilot Baz's squadron hit them with chaotic energy, their structure changed. They're not just eating energy. They're made of it. Taiwan nodded slowly. "And if they're made of energy," he started, "then we can unmake them," Jia-yun finished. She turned to the Draconis scientist floating nearby. "Nova, your people have studied quantum physics for thousands of years. Have you ever tried to change the basic rules of how energy works?" Nova's scales shifted to a thoughtful purple color. "No, such an idea would be impossible. Energy follows unchangeable laws." Jia-yun smiled. "Impossible for logical thinkers. But humans are good at impossible things." She walked to another screen and brought up a new set of equations. What if we could create a field where energy behaves differently? Not just blocking it or dispersing it, but changing its basic nature. The next 12 hours were intense. The 3 scientists worked nonstop, combining Draconis knowledge with human theoretical physics. They tested their ideas in the quantum simulation chamber, making small adjustments each time. Commander Kang Minji came to check on their progress. The Void Hunters had destroyed 3 more planets in nearby systems. Earth needed a solution soon. "We're close," Jia-yun told her. "The simulations show it's possible. We just need to make it work in reality." Finally, at hour 14, they were ready to test their device. It was small, about the size of a coffee cup, but it contained both Draconis crystal technology and human quantum circuits. "Activating quantum field," Taiwan announced. The device hummed softly and created a sphere of strange-looking energy around itself. The air inside the sphere seemed to ripple and change. "Now the test," Jia-yun said. They had captured a tiny piece of a Void Hunter during the first battle, keeping it contained in a special chamber. They moved this sample toward the quantum field. Everyone watched carefully. As the dark material entered the field, something amazing happened. Instead of absorbing energy or attacking, the sample simply came apart. It dissolved into harmless particles that faded away to nothing. "It worked," Jia-yun whispered. Then louder, "It worked. The field changes the basic rules that the Void Hunters operate on. They can't exist inside it." Nova's scales had turned bright gold with excitement. "This is beyond anything we imagined possible. You didn't try to fight their energy. You changed what energy means." Commander Kang immediately began making calls. "How soon can we make more of these devices? How large can we make the fields?" "With Draconis crystal technology and Earth's manufacturing capabilities, we can make thousands within days," Taiwan said. "And each one can protect a large area of space." Jia-yun looked out the window at Earth, beautiful and blue below them. Soon, they would have a way to protect not just their planet, but all planets from the Void Hunters. Human creativity had found a way to do the impossible once again. 1 year had passed since the first battle with the Void Hunters. Lee Do-hyun stood at the podium in the United Nations building in New York, looking out at the faces of representatives from every nation on Earth. Above them, through the special transparent ceiling, both human ships and Draconis flew peaceful patrols. Today marks a historic moment. Du-hyun began, not just for Earth, but for all living beings in our galaxy. The last of the Void Hunters has been eliminated using our quantum field technology. The room erupted in applause. In the front row, Dr. Han Jae-yun and Dr. Kim Ta-won sat with proud smiles. Their invention, combined with the bravery of pilots like Ba Jinwoo and the leadership of Commander Kang Min-ji, had saved countless worlds. But our victory brought us more than just safety, Du-hyun continued. It has given us a place among the stars. The Draconis High Council has invited Earth to join the Galactic Alliance as full members, not as junior partners, but as equals. Nova floated forward, scales shimmering with joy. Your world has proven itself beyond our highest hopes, the Draconis said. You showed us that sometimes the best solutions come from thinking in new ways. You taught us that impossible is just another word for not yet tried. Commander Kang stood up next. Our combined fleet now protects trade routes across 3 galaxies, she reported. Human pilots work alongside Draconis and other species, teaching them to think creatively in battle and in peace. The changes on Earth had been amazing too. The quantum field technology that defeated the Void Hunters had led to new forms of clean energy. Cities now floated on cushions of modified gravity. Schools taught both human and Draconis science, creating new generations of problem solvers. But perhaps our greatest achievement, Du-hyun said, was learning that we are not alone, and that our differences make us stronger together. The Draconis gave us their technology and knowledge. We gave them our creativity and new ways of thinking. Together, we found solutions that neither of us could have discovered alone. Park Sun-mai, who had been documenting everything for future generations, watched from her seat as Du-hyun spoke. The Cultural Exchange Center in Seoul had become a model for similar centers across the galaxy. Species from 1,000 worlds now came to Earth to learn about human art, music, and imagination. As we look to the future, Du-hyun concluded, we see not darkness between the stars, but endless possibilities. Humanity has found its place in the universe, and we discovered that our greatest strength was something we had all along, our ability to dream of better ways, to think beyond the obvious, to imagine the impossible and make it real. The chamber filled with applause again. Outside, the sun was setting over New York, painting the sky in colors that reminded everyone of Draconis scales. Ships from a dozen alien worlds moved peacefully through the evening sky, carrying traders, teachers, and explorers. Earth had changed forever, but it had changed for the better. Humans had faced their greatest challenge and discovered their greatest gifts in the process. Now they would carry those gifts to the stars, teaching others that sometimes the best solutions come from daring to think differently. As night fell, the stars came out brighter than ever before. They no longer seemed distant and cold, but full of friends and adventures waiting to be found. Humanity's next chapter was just beginning.